they're kind of numbers that we've pulled together and analysed over the last couple of weeks, and they're fully published today. And I know Tamara has some of them all at her hand in case you want to go down into any further detail. So with that said, I'm purely the MC. I'm the guy who kind of keeps it all running. But I can hand over to Tamara. Tamara, perhaps you just go through some of the initial findings of the Best of the Best report.
Absolutely, thank you. I should move my microphone up here. So, I have the best job in the company, don't tell anyone. I am a completely independent researcher inside of Adobe. My whole team is dedicated towards thought leadership and findings using all of our cloud data. So everything I do is based on billions or trillions of website visits or impressions or whatever it is. It's just very big data analysis. And what we do with that information is we try to come up with findings that help marketers figure out what to do next, or what's coming, or how they should compare themselves. And in this particular case, it's really about comparing themselves and understanding what their results are and how they will actually change if they do something different in their organizations. So with the best of the best, not to get too geeky technical, but I am sort of in that job where I look at data, it's about a distribution curve. If we look at smartphone traffic, for example, everyone's on a different point on that line, and the mean at the top of the bell curve is just an overall average. At the top end is the top quartile. That's the top 20% of everyone who's getting a certain result. So what we're doing is we're trying to look at the average at the top and the average overall, and then we look at separation. Is it getting wider or narrower, and is it going up or down? And it's a lot of complicated data, but in reality, it just tells us a picture of what's going on in the marketplace. And with smartphones in particular, we see that the smartphone traffic that has happened in 2014 is causing massive shifts in all of the engagement metrics across every country, every industry. And so it's really this pivotal earthquake force. And it came about mainly because of the Apple iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. So that's really driving massive change in social media, in e-commerce, in the video consumption. And what we've seen in our data is actually surprising to me, because what I thought was a massive shift in the United States turns out to be even more large in Europe. In fact, every country in Europe had a larger shift over to mobile than the United States, with only the exception of France. And France was about the same as the United States. So in reality, what's going on in Europe is something that we in the United States actually need to be watching. Because in the United Kingdom, we're up to over 50% of traffic coming from a smartphone. And I'm not talking about tablets anymore, I'm just talking about smartphones. For that top end, the top 20%. So when you're talking about 50% of your traffic coming from smartphones, and then Google announces that if you don't have a good site, you're not going to get a search anymore, you can obviously see why there's such a conversation going on around mobile. So that's what we're seeing in the best of the best in terms of mobile. And we've got all kinds of other stuff, but let's talk about mobile first.
So I just wanted to pick up on that, because I know I took a look at the results, and you just mentioned some of them there, but it seems that we're doing pretty well on tablets, but smartphones continues to be the problem, as you mentioned. And I know when you look at the country-by-country kind of comparisons, which we always love to do in Europe, right? There's no competition at all, so we would love to compare our various countries together. Actually, Germany had the lowest smartphone viz, right? So Martin, as our German representative, I think here, right? Do you have any comments there? What is your experience of the German market, and perhaps why that might be?
I think there's various reasons why we have that. Probably one of the biggest reasons is infrastructure, which is a bit of a nightmare what we're having there. When you're going outside, kind of in rural areas where I'm living, kind of 40 kilometers from Munich, which is a joke. But there is no 3G very often. You don't have LTE, you don't have anything. There's no standards. Infrastructure very low. So you can't get really good insights. You can't use the data. You can't. I mean, this is one of the issues. I think one of the, if you're taking it from a pure digital transformation perspective. So I went on a plane on 2 days ago, basically, to come here, and I found this magazine, which basically explains, this is the leading marketing magazine in Germany, and it basically explains where we are. German angst is more or less ruling everything what's happening in, so I'll push that way as well. So you can have it. I don't want to have it. I don't want to have that because it's not me. But the truth is, and that's quite surprising. I mean, leaders in Germany would love to use the internet more and more. They're all committed. They would do everything they can. But there's 3 guards of data basically protecting them. It's data protection, data processing, and data privacy, which kind of keeps them away of using the opportunities of Industry 4.0 versus Engineering 1.0. But Germans are engineers, they want to kind of drag everything apart and kill it and then rebuild it again to better understand where they are. And I think in that period between Engineering 1.0 and Industry 4.0, we got somewhere lost in that internet development.
Fred, I mean, you work a lot in France, right? I mean, how does, I'm thinking of one of those sayings that the worst company in the world would be where the British are chefs and the French are engineers. I don't know. I mean, you know, one of those things. What's it like in France? I mean, what's your experience there, and you know, compared to say like Germany and embracing technology and digital?
About the mobile situation,
yeah,
it's really nice because we do have some very competitive data planning. So if I'm not saying wrong, it's like half the price of what you can find in the US or in Canada.
yeah.
So when you have cheap data plan, and the smartphone is cheaper too, then consumers are following in mass. So it's working,
Yeah.
and it's going to be even better. So I think we are French market is on an adoption curve which will accelerate.
Yeah. And Jerry, you're supposed to be the, sorry, I call you the poster child for mobile, but the Nordics, and then the Nordics poster child for mobile.
Yeah, I think we're doing well up there, but I also think one thing that I'm happy about the Nordic countries when it comes to this discussion and this ongoing debate about, you know, mobile first and where we're going with that. I see a lot of people moving in the right direction in not just talking about, you know, cell tower reception or formats on websites, because if you think about it, the way you actually digest information on a mobile phone, on a small screen, is very different from how you do it on a big screen. So I think we need, when we talk about mobile first, yes, we do have massive challenges, of course, in making websites work in this space, in making them relevant for a mobile user. But we also need to think creatively, I think. You know what I mean? We need to think about content, you know, and it's very difficult for many companies to become, you know, entertainment entities. So how can we be creative in conveying the stories that we have in a narrative that makes sense in a mobile world? Can we, and we can't, you know, talk for hours and hours. So how do we tell bite-sized stories that works well for mobile? So I think there's a creative aspect that I think is an interesting discussion that's going on in the Nordics.
That's a great point, because there we were talking about smartphone visits, right? So purely visits to the site. But I know Tamara